Women store DNA from every man they've ever made love with, study finds. This is out of the University of Washington in collaboration with the Cancer Institute. Scientists discovered that women harvest DNA from the partners that they have unprotected sex with over the years. Now, this sounds wild, but it's true. There's even another study, revisiting telogyny, I don't know if you ever heard of this one, that offspring can inherit unacquired characteristics from mothers' previous mates. You heard that right. So you can have intercourse with a woman from which an offspring is created, and that offspring can have DNA and traits that was acquired from a previous partner that the woman had. This is crazy. I'll post a PubMed for this so you can look up both of these studies. Now, this is going back to like hypergamy and women with a lot of partners. You know, we always try to defend that, or at least women try to defend that, saying, hey, you know, what's the big deal? Guys do it too, yada, yada. But there are far-reaching repercussions to this kind of philandering behavior on both parts, for men and for women, but for women even more so. I was even looking on the Psychology Today. There's a bunch of studies about the psychological impact for women that seminal fluid has. So even when a gentleman inside of a woman, that semen can affect her mentally. Now, for some people, this is surprising, but I take it back to like C. diff and other diseases that disrupt your gastrointestinal system. And sometimes you have to have like a donation of stool, like a, you know, poop, feces. You got to get the good shit. There's these companies that harvest particularly healthy stool, and it gets donated, inserted into people with these issues, right? And if the donor has psychological problems, they found this. I'm telling you, like if the donor has psychological issues like depression, and he donates his poop and it's inserted into someone else, that person can then display suddenly symptoms of depression. How wild is that? People do not realize how much microbiome and just your intestines and all of that situation you got going on can affect you mentally. Like we know, oh, but it affects you physically. Your mentality changes. I think people fear this kind of stuff because they want to feel they have total control over their impulses, over their thoughts, over their behaviors, over their impulses, whatever. The reality is that maybe less of what you think, say, and do is under your control, because all of these factors play a part. The biggest one, how many partners you've been with. I say this as someone who has slept with more people than Jesus has saved. I know it has messed with my head. God only knows what happens to a woman. And when you see these women who are on OnlyFans or who do adult content, and it's like, yay, empowering. And guess what? They ignore all this research. And another thing that brings me to people like why they're surprised by this is that you can research this. If a woman is in love and her partner inside of her, right? Her uterus, her vagina, whatever, can create a more friendly place. And we're not talking just about pH, but the environment becomes more accepting, and it creates a higher likelihood of pregnancy. The opposite happens if the woman dislikes the individual, or if it's a forced situation. The body can actually create a more hostile environment for that semen. Of course, it still happens. Like if you got that fire sperm, or, you know, a woman is ovulating, she'll still get pregnant. But there are subtle ways that this does happen. It just shows you how amazing and complicated a woman's body is, down to the chemical level. There's so many things that go on that we don't realize. And don't get me wrong, I really don't want to come across as some kind of prude, but I'm telling you, so much about the way you think and behave is influenced by factors outside, well, not factors outside of our control. There are factors that are under control, but are factors that we don't acknowledge, like diet. You know, diet affects your microbiome. That affects how you think, diseases you may have, depression, all kinds of stuff. Same with partners. And anything you put in your body, really, exactly is. And sex is putting something in your body, and it will affect how you think, how you behave. So take that in consideration, and be careful about the people you associate yourself with, that you have relationships with, that you try to procreate with, because you're passing on this DNA, these traits. And it's a big deal for the future, right? You want to have kids that are healthy and that are happy, not a bunch of messed up mofos. You know what I'm saying? What do you guys think about this news? Is this going to change how you see your partner, or the characteristics that you look for in future partners, or are you just going to ignore it like everybody else? Thank you for watching.